With her the same note, and I'll do the lows. I'll do the low. It'll sound great because it's a double.
Welcome to the Crafty Music Tips YouTube channel. This is yet another behind the sound video here for Sing It Live. It's the song Heaven is a Place on Earth. Got my guitar. I'm going to chat with the wonderful singer of the song from Sing It Live. Before I do that though, I just want to nerd out a little bit about the song because, you know, I'd heard the song, I knew of it, definitely knew the Belinda Carlisle name. There was a bunch of things that struck me as I was preparing for it and when we were there performing it as well. So let's check out a little bit about Belinda Carlisle. Now you already probably know this, but I didn't realize that she was the singer for the Go-Go's, the band that had Our Lips Are Sealed and other songs, plenty of other songs. They must have had other songs because I didn't even realize this, that the Go-Go's are the most successful all-female rock band of all time. So then after that, that band disbanded and she went solo. But the interesting thing about the Go-Go's as well is that they were the first and to date only all-female band in history who wrote their own songs and played their own instruments to achieve a #1 album. I found that fascinating. I also found the actual song fascinating itself. Now, the song was written by Rick Knowles and Ellen Shipley, who both had various other things in their career, but worked with Belinda quite a bit from all accounts. And with the song itself, like the things that really kind of struck me was just the fact that there's a bunch of 2/4 bars in there. Now, for you rhythm nerds like me, and for instance, Damien, Steele Scott, the bass player, I said to him, yeah, there's a couple of 2/4 bars in there, and he goes, there is?
Yeah, there's a 2/4 bar in the hum. So when he goes
there's several 2/4 bars. Always just before.
I've played this on seven, so I'm just oh, there.
Yeah, that one.
I've never even thought about it.
Yeah.
Then, of course, when I showed him, he's like, yeah, of course. So, for instance, you've got 2, 3, 4. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So, not super crazy, but definitely it's interesting. Now, so the chorus modulates at the end. It does its upper tone kind of thing that, you know, happens a lot in musical theatre and a lot in quite a few pop songs as well. But really interestingly, though, it changes key from the verse to the pre-chorus, and then from the pre-chorus it changes key back to the original key that it was in. So it's in E major. So da 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 da, does that again, and then changes key to D major. That's the third chord and the fourth chord of the key, and then a 2, 3, 4, 5, and then straight back to the key of E major again. So, yeah, absolutely fascinating. There's a bunch of Beatles songs that do that similar type of thing. It definitely makes it feel like, oh, we've gone to another world, and then when we return back to the world that we've come from before, it just gives it a nice lift. It feels quite special. So that particular section, that pre-chorus, has some really interesting backing vocals. Darren, Nikki, and myself, we each created a triad of oohs. And what I find fascinating about this is that it doesn't follow where the chord goes. So the chord, it's a G to an A. If it followed the chord, it would go. What it actually does is it goes. Nice and warmed up right now. I think that was the line that I was on. And so what I was actually doing is I was going from the 5th of G, which is to the 5th of A, and then to the major 7th of G, and then back to the 5th of A. So to do that in a triad was great. I think it might have been these three. And then, but then it goes up, which would be, I should know this, shouldn't I? I think it's those three, so. Back to there. Fantastic. So simple, yet so effective, and there's no way that I would have known that just by listening to the song if I'm at the shops or if it comes on the radio or whatever. But getting in and learning it made me go, whoa, that's cool. But now one thing that I couldn't escape was some song comparisons. Never noticed the living on a prayer thing till a minute ago.
And there's a lot. I'll go and get the other one if you want to.
Exactly the same. Yeah.
It's very slightly
That's
different,
on-
but
that's
the
on the
da-da-da-da is exactly the
So-
same.
Yeah, okay, rid of different key.
What came first? That's someone else.
Living on a prayer.
Ooh, very close actually.
Living on a prayer by year. And it's also similar to Hit Me With Your Best Shot. It's not exactly the same, but I just noticed the similarity. Also the bridge bit, where it goes, boom, 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 boom. Just reminds me of Jesse's Girl. This bit. You know, it's a breakdown bit before the last chorus and the toms are hitting the offbeats. Boo. That's really hard to... Now, there's one other song comparison. It's a bit of a stretch, but I'll mention it just because it occurred to my weird brain, which is the bit that is the end of the pre-chorus. Just, it reminded me of the bit just before the chorus, I think, in the Growing Pains TV theme song. The luckiest dream is long as we keep on giving. Do-do-do-do. Yeah, anyway, that's how my brain works. But enough about my brain. I was once again welcomed into the home of Nikki, one of the, the stars of Sing It Live. And speaking of the word star, so her daughter, Akasha Starr, is the singer of this song. Let's have a chat. All right. I feel like your mum and I high five all the time, so, it's a tradition. We'll do
Keep
that.
it going.
Yeah. So, thank you for letting me come to your mum's house.
Anytime. Anytime. Oh, always welcome.
I was just checking this out, just because I, have eyes, and you did that.
I did do that.
Yeah.
I painted that on the balcony of my island home that I just left. I picked up a canvas and found out that the local Mitre 10, there wasn't much on the island, but the local Mitre 10 store sold paints.
Yeah.
And I thought this is a great opportunity, so I grabbed it, and I didn't have my guitar at this point because it was still back here, and
Right.
I was feeling really that I had the urge to create something and
Yeah.
nothing to do that with. So I decided to paint away, and Mum loved it, so I shipped it off and sent it here for her.
Oh, lovely.
So when I came home, it was just displayed readily for me, and it's beautiful because it reminds me of the island as well,
Yeah, nice.
and the time there and the meaning behind the painting for me and everything. So it's beautiful. Love that it's here.
Meaning behind the painting? Could you elaborate, or
I
would you?
absolutely can elaborate.
All right.
So for me, I wanted a challenge for the painting first and foremost, and things that I really struggle to paint is hands and water. So I thought, why not make that center, the main point of the painting? And then as I was doing it, I wanted to figure out what I was going to paint specifically. And for me, it was it was a visual representation of my journey in that moment, in those months while moving, of how no matter how hard you try to hold on to things, life's just gonna keep flowing and it's gonna keep going through, and there's beauty in that as well. and that it's just no matter how you try to hold on to it, it's just going to keep going and it's going to keep changing and flowing. So that was my meaning behind the painting.
That's awesome. I guess it's safe to say, this is one of the things that we were chatting about before we hit record, that the family is quite artsy.
Very artsy.
Yeah.
It's a strong element of this household.
So we've got Mum off camera that's waving. Like my family, I've got half sport, half music, and my sister, she started music a bit before me, and then I was kind of like the older brother that was just only because I had a head start, kind of better at things. And then all of a sudden she was doing the thing that I couldn't do, and then I was like, well, I better get me some of that music action. Now she's full-time sport person and I'm the full-time muso. But so you've got other siblings as well that are into the whole arty thing in their version of that, right?
Absolutely. So it's really similar with me and my older sister.
Yeah.
Jaylena. She had that head start. She did music first, she did art first, and I remember just watching her when I was younger, and I was inspired by the things she was doing, but also that sister part of me was extremely jealous that she was better at the things than I was. And then we got to the point where I started developing and finding my own taste in art and music, and experimenting with what was right for me in that. And it was so great to grow separately but still grow at the same time with our passions, but they were so individual and still are, that we had that growth, and I didn't feel like I had to compete with her anymore because it was my own style, it was true to me, not trying to live up to her standards.
That's quite mature that you've been able to have that realization already, because you're not super long in like having been here on the earth.
Just a blink. Just a blink of time.
Yeah. No, that's great. And your brother as well? Very talented in anything that he tries. Very musical as well, has a beautiful voice, just doesn't like to share it very much. But that's one of my highlights growing up with him, is we listen to a lot of similar music as well. So we'll be in the car together and he'll put on a song that we like, and hearing him just belt it out, and especially coming home after being away for so long, hearing the growth in his voice as well, and just him as a person in general. But he's very artistic in that sense too, and very creative in hands-on ways, like does lots of woodwork and carves things and makes things, and it's beautiful. We're very artistic, very creative like that, and we're all different in our own ways, which makes it so special as well.
If you hit it young once at a time. Yeah, so it still carries in the delay. I think. Is there something like that, whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, when did you start like having this thing of like, ooh, I want to use this a bit more than just maybe around the house or whatever?
I never wanted to do anything with music at all, because I watched my mum do it, I watched my grandpa do it, I watched my sister do it, and I thought, no, I'm going to be different. I don't want to do this. I want to do something completely different. I feel like I was about 5 years old when I remember feeling like that and going, I don't want to do it this way. All of a sudden, we got a piano gifted to us from, it was my mum's grandmother's, a pianola.
That's what that meant.
That was what that meant. She's going, talk about this, this is how you got started.
You had piano lessons.
I had piano lessons, so we got this pianola. I was the only one who didn't want to do piano lessons. Me and my two other siblings got put into them as part of our homeschooling extracurriculars, and I was the one who did not want to do it, and I was the one who stayed for about 5 years doing it, whereas the others left about a year in, potentially. They weren't as into it as I was. So I picked up playing the piano and fell in love with that. Started singing lots while playing and starting to learn pitch and, you know, that recognition as well. And then I hit 8 years old and I discovered a ukulele, and I thought, this thing's cool. This is awesome.
A bit more portable than a piano.
Way more portable than a piano. So I was 8 and learning ukulele with one of my homeschooling friends. She was about 5 years older than me, and she was teaching me, and I was teaching myself, and I started singing. And then at that age I started doing gigs, like little busking gigs at markets and things.
Yeah, right.
And
At what age?
8.
Yeah, right. Cool.
8. And I continued that on until about age 10 or 11, just me and my ukulele, and then I decided that the ukulele was starting to bore me and I wanted to expand my horizons. And I found out that a guitar was a thing. Got my first one gifted to me for my 11th or 12th birthday. I've still got that exact guitar because it's never going to leave me. It was a Baby Taylor, which was also a Taylor Swift branded
Many
guitar.
Taylors.
So it's got Taylor Swift printed on the bottom. So it's great whenever I whip that out. Everyone's like, oh wow, you're a Taylor Swift fan. And I'm like, oh yeah, well I was. For sure, definitely loved Taylor Swift back then. And so I've still got that and I love that. And I started playing guitar. I taught myself. I did lessons for a very short amount of time just to learn a bit more of the theory because I like to play with feel and hear it and feel it. That hasn't always gone well in my family because my grandfather only plays by feel, so he's said to learn the theory and it's important. So he's always instilled in me that learning the theory is such a big part of it and tried to push me in the direction to learn that a bit more, which I have, but I still prefer to play by feel.
So one would assume that if you do this, that you are creative with it as well as like analytical with like songs, like you write stuff?
I write stuff, I definitely write. I was 8 years old when I wrote my first song and I just continued writing. I'd sit and I'd write 5 songs in a day.
Do you remember the first one?
Yeah, I do. It was called Ferris Wheel and it was some metaphorical song about love and life being like a Ferris wheel.
Yeah, cool.
And at 8 years old I whipped this out. And I
pretty
remember
good
playing
for
it.
8.
I remember playing it for mum and dad, and it was standard, a cutesy little song, but there was meaning behind it. And I remember watching them and their faces and the clocks and the wheels just turning. They're like, what is she talking about? Where'd she get this from? That's when I just decided, found out that I had that. I did have a gift for writing music that had so much depth to it that I maybe hadn't experienced in this lifetime, but writing. It just all came out through that and I continued to write that way and haven't stopped.
Yeah, nice. So I think, if I'm correct, was your first Sing It Live session the first time that we met as well? I think that was Love is a Battlefield?
It was Love is a Battlefield.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first one I did.
Gee, that was a while ago. Because I'd met your mum, I hadn't met you, that was the day that we met, and I'd met your mum at a little gathering that Darren had put together early on, and then all of a sudden I walk into the room and there's the two of you and I was like, who's Charles?
Who's Charles indeed?
Now I must say I had to ask, is this just a family thing? But they're like, no, we can tell everyone. We don't care. Yeah, so who's Charles?
We're both Charles.
Right.
We're both Charles. We're both.
But then who's Charlie? Right.
I'm more Charlie. She's more Charles.
Right.
And that stemmed from a YouTube video that went around 10, 15 years ago now of these little English boys, they're brothers, and the little one bites the finger of the older brother and he's going, ouch, Charlie, that really hurt. Charlie bit my finger. And at some point, it was around COVID time, we were sitting down, we rediscovered that video and we were laughing so hard. So we went through a week where we just repeated that script over and over and over and over and over. And then somehow we progressed to calling each other Charlie, which then progressed to Charles. And it's almost 5 years later and we're still calling.
I feel like you could get a Chuck in there.
Yeah, we could get a Chuck in there. I reckon there's many different variations. Well, Charlie Bucket is one of them.
Oh, there you go.
Charlie Bucket. We say Charlie Bucket a lot from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
I vaguely remember mentioning Charles in Charge, the 80s sitcom that didn't really hit, but I remember it some reason. Yeah. But then I come to the house, what was it, a couple of weeks ago to talk about The Look, the Rockstep song, and I meet Charlie,
the dog,
who's
been here well before. He was here well before we ever decided that on that nickname for one another. So
the House of Charles, I guess.
House of Charlie's.
Yeah.
3 of us that just wander around. Nobody knows. You called the dog earlier, and I was like, yes. Like, yeah, are you talking to me?
That was real, actually. Yeah,
It was a moment.
The thing is, we go up to cameras, we don't know if it's going to be, if we're going to be close
Too
or not,
close.
too close or not.
That's
let's
on
just see.
autofocus. This one is on a fixed.
If we go like,
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, that's great.
yeah,
So if we did that, would just be just a step in, Charles.
yeah.
That'd be alright.
Let me see what that looks like.
Wonderful. Well, there was also Call Me that
Call Me.
we've done together. You've done heaps of others that I haven't been in. What do you reckon, like, if you had to pick, what's like the standouts Sing It Live songs for you?
That I've done.
Yeah.
Definitely Kids in America, because
yes,
that
that's
was
right.
the first solo one, and it was terrifying, and I look back at the video and I cringe because I felt like I was so awkward. That's been something that I've had to come to terms with, is that I always look at Mum and I look up to her standards and how she presents herself on camera and how she can connect with the person on the other end of the screen wherever they are in the world, and she just does it effortlessly. And I don't quite have that ability yet. I don't feel as though I do, and I get up and in that moment I'm going, okay, gotta look at the camera, but gotta not just look at the camera, gotta look around, gotta remember the words, gotta maybe move a little bit, but don't move too much, but don't make it awkward. And I've got all these things, and then I'm going, wait, what verse are we up to? Do I have an ooh here or an ah? And then I look back at the video and I'm remembering all of the things that I was thinking, and I'm like, oh, you can see that, and you probably can't, but I can. But Kids in America is the standout one for me because it was my first solo, and I did it without Mum, and I went down by myself, and
Yeah.
it was terrifying and exciting and a cool thing to just try.
So this one, Ooh, Heaven is a Place. How did that song come about? Was that your idea or Darren's?
Absolutely not my idea.
Yeah.
It was Darren's. I love the song. I think sometimes I forget and other people forget. I didn't grow up in the 80s. A lot of people go, oh, your style is so 80s, your music is so 80s, all the songs you listen to are so 80s, which is so not true. Couldn't be further from the truth. I had a mullet at one stage purely by accident.
Well, that's pretty 80s.
Yeah, purely by accident. It was just
I see
there.
what you're saying. It's an
And-
accidental kind of connection.
And I just thought I'm going to live into the look for a minute till my hair grows out. And then everyone's like, wow, she's from the 80s. Like, she's born in the wrong era. I'm like, I'm really not. I like this era. I've obviously heard all of these songs because I've grown up in such a musical household. So all of the songs I've heard, but they're not necessarily in my repertoire or in the songs I listen to on shuffle when I'm driving somewhere. So it was difficult to connect to this song at first, probably up until we were recording in the moment, and I thought, all right, just listen to the words and connect to it and feel it. But I didn't really learn it until the morning of, which is, I tend to do that with a lot of songs because I can just listen to a song and know the lyrics and the words once through. I listened to it a few times beforehand, but to really hone in on it was the morning of, driving down to Darren's. And I loved it, and it was so fun, but it's definitely not my style per se, how I normally do my music, and it's fun to do and I love it, and it's different. It doesn't necessarily represent me as an artist in how I perceive myself.
Yeah, I've had personally that experience many times where it's like I arrive into Darren's studio to play something, maybe it's a guitar, I don't know. And then it might be your mum or it might be someone else going like, so this song, yeah? I'm like,
Yes.
yeah. I guess that's not singing though, is it? Singing's a bit different because you're bearing your soul and you're looking at the camera and you're pretending like, yeah, this is what I am all about. But you have to do that sometimes for gigs, I guess. So it is a thing, like stepping out of that comfort zone, I guess, is it can only make us stronger. Or
Absolutely, I completely agree. It's just difficult sometimes, especially when you haven't done a lot of it yet, and figuring out how that looks and trying to, I don't think it's so much as living into it and pretending that that's your everything as it is so much for me is trying to draw my own life experiences into that style so it can be authentic.
Well, you can just bring the mullet back. and then that's a
It hurts. It hurts deeply. I look back sometimes and I'm like, oh, I made it work, but God, I wish it. I wish I didn't.
You didn't have to. Yeah,
I wish
yeah.
I didn't have to make the mullet work.
So, well, the fact that you can, you listen to the song and you kind of got your head around it, but really getting it down proper just on the morning of, on the drive there, is a good testament to you and your connection to music. You must have a sense of confidence that, I'll be right. As long as I can focus. Hi, Zoran. Would you say that? Would you say that you have a confidence and a connection to, knowing like, yes, I will be able to do it and can do it with that amount of time?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially when I get together with a group of musicians, it's easier than going to a solo gig and not practicing and then getting up and going, "Ooh, like I didn't really think this through." But you've got a bunch of people to play off of, and they're there to back you, and you're there to back them, and you're all working together. And I learnt that probably first when I was in school, and it was mandatory for certain year levels to get together. We had an orchestra of a bunch of different stringed instruments, cello, viola, violin, and we'd all get together multiple mornings in a week and play all of our stringed instruments, and you'd have your individual lessons separately. And I remember hearing my violin and I was like, doesn't sound very good and doesn't sound right, and then you'd get together and everyone's there backing you, and
Got it.
It makes it easier and it unites in that way.
And definitely in the room in Darren's basement studio, there is that feeling like everybody's in it together and we're all helping each other out. How does it feel for you being there, knowing that everyone might be like maybe twice your age or whatever it is? Like, where I'm going with this is that I've had the pleasure and the privilege of having many people that are older than me like welcome me into their space, and there's something different, like in a really cool way when people do that. Like, it's great having people your own age, like your mates or whatever it is that you can jam with or whatever. But then, like it's like a gift or something. Would you agree? Do you feel something like that?
Absolutely. I think it's the most special feeling for me when any group of musicians, and the most of them that I am around are all a lot older than me, whether they're my grandfather's friends and his band members, or you guys and the crew for Sing It Live. It feels really special in that sense that they all have so much wisdom, and I've got my own separate set of wisdom as well that they might not have, in terms of that newer, fresher perspective and living in the new age of music so freshly. Like, it's all that I've known in terms of the progression of styles and sounds. So getting to share all of that and feeling welcomed to express how I see music, and then getting shared their perspectives as well, I think it's very special. And I love being around people with that wisdom and that knowledge, because it feels like it only helps me grow as an artist and as a musician.
That's at the end. So we're doing all of the Alright. So you just do it, lift to an F sharp on the last one. So they all sound like this. Like that. And the last one goes.
No F sharp. Last thing, had a good opportunity to chat with Mario and Michael Marino, the drumming legends of Sing It Live, and the word special came up quite a bit when, like, I'd ask Evan, what is it like to, have your son there at a session or with your dad? And so I can only guess that it would be quite similar, I guess. You got your mum there and you got young little Kishi or Charlie around. Yeah.
For me, it's like remembering mum washing my hands when I couldn't reach the sink, and she'd sing me this one song over and over. either if she was putting me to bed or washing my hands. I just remember it when she was washing my hands. And I used to sing along with her, or, you know, all the lullabies she'd sing me and me trying to learn the words and listening to her and her voice being so comforting. And I've been able to grow with that. And now I used to watch her perform. I used to go to bed and know Mum's out at a gig and she'll be home soon. And now I get to be a part of that with her. And yeah, special. It's special to have that.
Well, I could sit here and chat all night, but I think that'll probably do. Here's an extra thing. Anything to plug at all? Is there anything that people can go check out? Artwork, songs, anything?
Not particularly. I mean, there is some special projects happening, or potentially happening
stay tuned.
soon. So stay tuned. Stay tuned to the Instagram handle,
Which will appear like this.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Here, it could be up here. It could be everywhere. So yeah, stay tuned. There's some interesting things that might come to play soon.
Alright, if you haven't already done so, give some love to Akasha and her mum as well. What legends they are to hang out with. And tell me, did you learn anything from this, from me nerding out? Anything from the wonderful words there of the great vocalist? Let us know in the comments below as well. Now, this is yet another behind the sounds video here on the Crafty Music Tips YouTube channel. There's a bunch of other ones for other songs that you can go check out, in addition to some other general crafty music tips videos that may help you out depending on where you're at with your music. So go check them out. Might be helpful. So there we go. I'll get out of here. Have a great day. Just before I get out of here, I always leave you with this thought that wherever you are with your music, you don't have to do every single thing right now. Just do the next thing. Hope that helps. I'll see you soon. Cheers.